Right, I'm going to go through now how to create and use columns in InDesign as opposed to guides. So I'll do a new document. Now remember, we're dividing up a page and it depends on the page size. So this is the first thing you've got to get right or organize is the proportions of your page. I will do A4 portrait. You can choose whatever you like. So you can see on the right 210 by 297 and orientation, the man standing up. I'm going to do facing pages that are ticked, and we've got one column here and I've got preview on. If I untick that, it means when I change things, the preview doesn't change. So if I go back to 1, put a tick on preview, increase the number of columns, and there you go. You can see we've got the columns behind. The gutter is the gap between columns, this thing here, as you can see. And the narrower that is, the closer together, and if I set it to 0, the closer together the columns become. And that's generally a problem because particularly with text, if I've got text running along one line in a column, even though the text goes to the next line below in the same column, visually to our eyes, it will merge on to the next line in the next column, which is not good. So I'll set it back to 4 mils. But again, you can choose whatever you like. It's entirely up to you. This so-called white space, the margins and the gutter is very important because it allows our eyes to rest and look around and see and how to divide up the structure of our page, because you're designing this for readability, one assumes. And so here we have 3 columns. I've got my pages panel up, nice big thumbnail, and I did that by going to the little hamburger menu down to panel options at the bottom, and I've set the pages to extra large. Do OK, and I'll press T on the keyboard and I can click and drag and I can create something, and it will auto snap to, in this case, 1 column wide. And I'll come down here, click and drag, and I'll say I want it 2 column wide. There's nothing stopping you from doing a half or 3/4 or partial column. That's entirely up to you. Generally you don't, because that's what the columns are for. They're to guide you, but it's entirely up to you. It's your choice. You can break the rules if you wish. And I'll press escape to come out of the text box and go to the black arrow tool. You see here in the top left, I'm on the black arrow tool. Command A, type, and at the bottom, fill with placeholder text. And this is our text. And if I click off and press the W key, then I hide everything, and that's my layout. And since these, I'll press W again, since these columns have to be all the same width and the same height. You don't have a choice. And the gutters are all the same. But because they're all the same, we have a relationship between the boxes. 1 column wide, 2 column wide, 3 column wide. And we can see that visually, that they are related to each other. So the sizes are up to you, and you can get that from the page proportions, the width and height, 210 by 297, and you can divide that up manually and then work out how many columns you want. It's entirely up to you. Notice the columns don't go out into the margins. The margins are separate, so we're only dividing up the content area. So within this sort of area, within the pink and magenta lines. Now let's add another couple more pages. I'll click on the plus button in the bottom right hand corner twice. And you can see the pages, these new pages have 3 columns. And that's because if I go to a parent, double click, and if you look, all these pages I've got have a little A there in the top left, top right. That means when I create a new button, click a new page, when I click on the plus, they're copied from a parent. A parent is underneath. So that's why I get 3 columns, because a parent is underneath all of them. And you can see we're in a parent in the bottom left hand corner. Now let's go to page 2, double click on page 2. So if you look, page 2 is highlighted, nothing else is. So the recto page, page 3, no, I want the verso page, left page, so it's just highlighted, it's gone blue. And you go to layout and margins and columns. So I can now change the columns just of this page. So I'll click on margins and columns. Make sure preview is ticked on the right hand side. And I can play around with the margin. So if I uncheck the chain and increase the top margin, oh, there we go. It was unlinked. So let's cancel that. So I linked it, which I didn't want. So let's go back to margins and columns. There you go. The line going through. So now they're individual. And so there you go. There's nothing wrong. I can have different margins for different pages. And I can also have different columns. So I can set that down to 2, to 1, or if I want to, let's say 10. I can change the gutter or not. I'll leave it alone. I'll do OK. And then I'll click on the T tool and I will start creating boxes which are column widths wide to produce the sort of layout I want. And they're all related because they're all an integer number of columns, as in whole numbers, not 1.5, 2.5 or something like that. If I just did one column, press Escape, Command A, type menu, fill with placeholder text. If you look at one column is impossible to read. It's only like one or hyphenated or 2 words long, if that. That's impossible to read. It's very, very difficult. So I would always recommend for narrow columns like this, make the boxes 2 or 3 or 4 wider so it's easier to read. Because readability is generally what you want. Let's get rid of the floating toolbar. I don't need that. And there we go. So if I press the W key to hide everything, you see there it is. And then W to bring it back. And you can see the left-hand page, page 2, has a different number of columns to the right-hand page. The number of columns is entirely up to you, but it all starts from your page proportions, landscape or portrait, whatever it is, and then you use them to create either a text box or a picture box, if that's what you want. And generally you make them a whole number of columns, whatever it might be. And press W. And so you get your layout and you'll see there's a relationship, even though they're sort of in different positions, etc., etc. They don't all run left edge to left edge or right edge to right edge. This is deliberate on my part. I'm playing around, but you can see there is a definite relationship here. So you can be as rigorous or as pedestrian as you like. So everything can be nice and simple, straightforward and boring, if that's what you want. Or you can muck around with things, move them around, but again you can see they are related to the number of columns. Generally you don't, but you can have boxes that go over the center page. Be careful with that. I mean, not with text, because generally the spline here, this thin black line, it'll make the text unreadable, unless it's big and massive, something like that. But you can do that with pictures. If you want to bleed over to the next page. Oh, missed. There we go. This allows you to lead the reader's eye from left to right or right to left. And if I press W, so you can see we've got something like that if you so wish. And that's how you use columns in InDesign.